What is up, fans? You guys crushed it with the subscriber challenge. We smashed and surpassed 10 subscribers. Thank you all so much for hitting that subscribe button. We are so grateful. Welcome to the special edition 10 subscriber episode of the Harold McBasketball Show. I am your host, as always, Harold McBasketball, with my co-host, I Know Ball Paul. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you so much. 10 subscribers, man. Holy shit. That's like, you know, we're well on our way to a million. That's just a couple more zeros you have to add to the end. And for you guys to smash our one additional subscriber challenge, it feels surreal. It feels like this community is just getting stronger by the moment. And this is a well-deserved mid-week episode. You know, for the McBasketballers, the Miss McBasketball fandom. We're gonna come up with a name for you guys.
We'll workshop it.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, without further ado, we're gonna bring you our hot takes, our fresh reaction to a trade that hit very close to home with KP arriving in Boston. Harry, first thoughts.
Yeah, I mean this was a big move. I mean, if I was really to try to give my first thoughts were what the fuck? Why are
Yeah.
we trading Marcus Smart and not Malcolm Brogdon? Why did the Clippers ruin this trade for us? That was pretty devastating that initially came out because obviously we go from losing Brogdon, who is although really good for us in the regular season, was injured in the playoffs, didn't play his best. And Marcus Smart was a player who'd been with us for 9 years, countless playoff runs, felt like the heart and soul of the team, absolute grinder. Loved Boston. Boston loved him back. So that was a tough loss. I love you, Marcus, if you're listening. You were one of the best Celtics ever, and you will forever still be a legend in Boston. So that hurt, but I do think objectively, after a little bit of time passed looking at the trade, um, Marcus Smart for Kristaps Porzingis, I think, is a fair trade for the Celtics. And then you also get two first round picks on top of that. I think that's a really fair deal and almost hard to say no to.
Yeah, no, I think you said it super well with how much Marcus Smart means to us and to all Celtics fans, I think. And it was funny seeing on Twitter how like everyone but Celtics fans were like, "Oh my god, the Celtics, what a deal!" And then Celtics Twitter was like miserable, in pain, um, cursing the gods. So, um, and I felt that because Marcus Smart was such a special player, such a special place in my heart because he, really marked the start of the rebuild and like a super fun era in Celtics basketball and kind of the era that I really got into the Celtics. Like I would watch, a bit of the Paul Pierce KG era, and those were great times. But I became a diehard, funnily enough, like after we traded them to the Nets. I just started watching every single game. Um, and Smart, I mean, I could go on, but um, such a cool player, just won everyone's hearts over pretty quickly. Um, Sometimes would drive us insane with the shots he would pull, but ultimately he became such a core piece of our team. And like you said, when the initial news that it was Brogdon, I was so hype. I was like, fuck yes. And I think it's partly obviously because he doesn't have that sentimental value that Marcus Smart has, but also because Brogdon brought a bit more scoring, which is kind of something that, in a way we're good on. And Marcus, his value became more and more through his career as a playmaker and as kind of the lead playmaker on our team. And you know, seeing that leave was very tough. Um, you know,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
like you said, two first round picks on top of that, not bad. And then there's kind of the implication of Grant Williams leaving.
yeah, for sure. The money got a little bit tighter by sending out Marcus, who not only is an excellent player, but he was on an excellent contract. I think he's only making around 20 million a year. So you move that, you take on a bigger contract in KP, making closer to 30, extended now for 2 years, 60 million. So he's going to keep making that 30 million. The team got more expensive. I think the team got better, but with that, we are put in a similar situation to a team kind of like the Suns, where when you're paying so much money to your stars, you do have to cut back a little bit on your role players. We felt that a little bit. We had to let Grant Williams go. But I will say, I think the Celtics are still straddling the line really well. Because unlike the Suns, who went all in with four big players, and the rest are vet minimums, the Celtics have still maintained enough cap room to keep around some really good role players. So it's like we still have room for guys like Derek White, who's been excellent, Al Horford, who continues to be awesome every year, Rob Williams is great when he's on the floor. And Brogdon coming off the bench is going to be really nice. So it feels like there's still a full roster around this team, but now it feels like we finally have three stars on it with JT, JB, KP. That just sounds beautiful.
Yeah. No, it really does. Now, obviously, there's a big question there with KP's injury history, and I think his ability to stay on the floor. He's coming off a very healthy season, a very good season. But the 3 or 4 seasons before that, he was struggling to, play more than like 40 games a season. He played 17, or no, he played more than 17. He played like 51 the year before, but he got traded halfway. 43 2020 21 season, 2019-20 season, 57, 48 the year before, blah blah blah. But you know he has some injury history there, and I think it's a bit of a coin toss whether we see him play over 50 games this year.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right about that. There's a weird philosophical question, I think, when it comes to this kind of stuff. Are you better off making the move for a more injury prone player who, in theory, raises your ceiling? Or are you better off being a slightly lower ceiling team, but not being at risk for injury, thus having more chances at a playoff run, and also maybe banking on other teams having injuries? I kind of don't know which is better because I think we do have a better chance of winning the finals with KP over Marcus Smart if KP is healthy. But Marcus Smart was an Iron Man. So if we had Marcus Smart in this team, like I know Marcus is going to be ready for the playoffs every year for as long as we have him on the roster. Whereas now we have to play the injury game a little bit, and it's not to the same extent as a team like the Clippers who are never healthy, but it feels like we could find ourselves in a place where we're like, oh, but if we were healthy, we could have made a run. And it's like, well, if you're never healthy, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I pray we're not that team, but like you
Yeah.
said, I think there's that risk and that comes with it, and I think that's really well put how you put it. There's that trade-off, and ultimately what's the better situation. I think fortunately our two best players aren't injury prone whatsoever, and so hopefully there's room to really manage Kristaps, his minutes and his games, and same with Robert Williams. I'm hoping in the regular season they can really kind of take it easy and maybe play sub 60 games so that in the playoffs they really are ready to go. But um yeah, no, both of those guys have some knee injury history that I think as Celtics fans is fair to be concerned about, but the higher ceiling is for sure um the reason I think that Brad had to pull the trigger on that trade, because the higher ceiling is winning the championship. That's the ultimate goal, and that's kind of the hump that we just have not been able to mount with Marcus Smart and the two J's. So
Yeah, it does feel like at some point you do need to make a change. And every time the Celtics were getting eliminated in the playoffs, it always felt like it was because their offense couldn't figure it out. They couldn't get anything consistent going. Eventually just devolves into like JT and JB ISOs, turnovers, driving into three defenders. So I think in theory it does make sense to make a move where you move someone like Marcus, gives you more defense, but a little less on offense, and bring in someone like Porzingis, who's going to give your offense another element. You've got a huge sharpshooter out there now who can shoot over anybody. I think like any possession that we're running out of time, we need a bailout. You can just give it to Porzingis. Like Porzingis can't take a bad shot. He's 7'3". He can shoot over anybody. So I feel like he's gonna be an awesome bailout player. At the end of games where you just need someone to hit a tough shot and he can just shoot over anybody. So I like that element that Kristaps Porzingis is going to bring to that offense, and he's still a plus defender because he's so big and gets so many blocks.
Yeah, no, and his post game looked good last season. It hasn't been super efficient in the past, but I agree for a team that their offense tends to stagnate, especially in the playoffs, and it kind of turns into a bit, under Ime became very ISO heavy with either Tatum or Brown, kind of the same, deal with Missoula, but sometimes it was like overpassing and just weird bad possessions of like felt like plays weren't getting drawn up. I don't know, but Kristaps is going to come in and really add a new element to the offense. Um, you know, people seem to be concerned. We hear all the time that Marcus Smart was the heart and soul of the team. Kristaps, I don't know him personally, but he has like kind of a slight reputation as maybe not being like the most warm person. I mean,
I,
that's
I don't know if that's totally true because I know because I feel like he was received really well in the Knicks. I think New York loved him. I know he had problems in Dallas. I kind of think Luka's a little bit of a dick. I wouldn't be surprised if that was more so Luka who was the problematic one, or maybe they just didn't get along. But I don't know. I think Luka's a big time whiner, and that's just a fact. So I could see
yeah,
that being a big reason that didn't work out. And things seemed to go great in DC. They just weren't that good, but he seemed to get along with everybody.
true. Yeah. Yeah, okay. I mean, it's hard obviously to match Marcus Smart's charisma, his personality, the energy he brings. KP again, yeah, I don't think it's like he has this crazy reputation of having no personality or anything like that, but he's kind of a soft-spoken guy. You know, is he going to get along as well? Smart had a great relationship with both the Jays. I believe it was Tim Bonchamps or whatever.
Tim
I definitely
Bontemps.
Bontemps, yeah. I think it was him on the low post who said that he really thinks the Celtics team could be lacking personality now because Jason as well kind of has this reputation of being a bit too, they don't have these glue energy, soul of the team kind of guys that Marcus Smart definitely embodied and Grant Williams was kind of starting to embody. I'm just curious what your take is on the importance of having someone like that on a team and if the Celtics have it.
I think it's good to have, but I I think it could be something that's overrated. Because if you're about vibes, if you look at the vibes on when a team is number one or number two in their conference, the vibes are always amazing on that team. As long as you're winning, the vibes are going to be really good. And I don't really know if you need to have this big time vocal leader in order to maintain good vibes. I also think sometimes it can be beneficial to essentially go through a leadership change because Marcus Smart had been that clubhouse leadership or leader for years at that point, and maybe Brad figured that Jalen or Jason were ready to step up and take over that leadership role. So maybe we'll see one of those guys step up a little bit more, become a little bit more vocal, and become that clubhouse leader on the court. We'll see. We won't really know until the season starts, but I think we'll see something like that happen.
Yeah. And I think Jason is for sure ready to take on a bit more playmaking responsibility. And again, with Kristaps being such a great shooter, it doesn't lend itself to like needing to be like an incredible playmaker. There's just going to be a lot of hopefully swing moving the ball kind of offense that we saw a fair amount under Missoula. But yeah, Tatum's coming off 6 assists. So, the idea that this team completely lacks playmaking, I think Derek White is obviously an excellent passer and gets the ball moving super well. And Jason's kind of becoming that. But it'll be interesting to see if kind of a new vocal leader emerges, or, maybe if the team is able to just, do well without a vocal leader. And if it's just they're the vibes stay great because, like you said, they're just winning, and playing well together. So we'll see. But we'll for sure miss Marcus and um Grant as well. I think kind of, was a bit underutilized in the postseason. I thought a great shooter,
Yeah,
and a couple iconic moments this season.
for sure.
Some maybe not for the better, like shit talking Jimmy and getting a few buckets on his head, or when he famously told Donovan Mitchell that he'll hit both free throws and proceeded to
Gotta
miss both.
Yeah, gotta remember the good times though. Gotta keep in mind that time they wore the Batman costume to a game. That was great. Or
Of
or of
course,
course, or of course, Grant Curry, Game 7,
game
Bucks,
7,
electric. We'll
of
always love
course.
him for that. So yeah. Grant's a little bit of a loss. That'll hurt, but I think this team will be okay without him.
Yeah. I think on a scale of 1 to 10, or, I tend to favor this trade slightly more than I'm upset with it, mainly for what you touched on at the way beginning. The higher ceiling is worth betting on. And I just really hope Kristaps can have a healthy season, but more importantly, a healthy playoff runs, and same with Rob.
For
I mean, the
sure.
whole team, but
Yeah, and one of the complaints about the trade is, yeah, by bringing on KP, you lose Smart, and then you have to let Grant go to stay under the tax. So with that, the team becomes a little more shallow. Maybe go from about 8 players in the rotation down to 7. So all of a sudden the team's a lot more shallow. One injury can really, put that rotation in a bind. But I don't think the Celtics are done. So I'm not too worried about that. I think they at least have one more move in them. I think it'll probably be a small move, but I think something is going to come either this offseason or what I think is more likely would probably be at the trade deadline next year. Because something that we started seeing teams do a lot is packaging their second round picks. So it's like you send out like 5 second round picks and you get back, a decent role player can come off the bench for you. It's really low salary, so you hardly need to send anything back or match. I could see a move like that happening. And I think that'd be perfect for the Celtics. Maybe they get like one more guard making like 5 million or less and just send out a bunch of the picks that we've got from, trading down the last year or two.
yeah, and better believe we have a ton of second round picks. Um, I forget how many specifically, but we had we got the 25th pick, Memphis's pick, from the trade, and then Brad proceeded to trade down like I think 3 or 4 times until eventually landing on Jordan Walsh. But I believe we got 3 or 4 second round picks in that process. And then in
Yep.
an interview, Brad Stevens, pretty straightforward guy, just said like he hopes to leverage those second round picks, um, for trade value, at some point. And yeah, and if he got his guy in Jordan Walsh, then kudos to Brad Stevens. Love you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to throw out some names that I thought could be interesting to leverage those picks for. It's just a few, but some point guards on small contracts that came to mind were Dennis Schroeder, now in the Raptors. Not sure that fit makes sense for him. He's played for the Celtics before, was pretty good. He was solid for the Lakers. I think he'd be a backup point guard for us. Someone else I was looking at is TJ McConnell. He's on a pretty light contract. Good playmaker, good defender. Wouldn't mind him coming off the bench. We've also got Dennis Smith Jr. on the Nets right now, making about 2.5 million. I think the Nets could get more out of him right now because his contract is so low. because it would
Is he
essentially
not on the
cost us.
Hornets?
No, I think his contract ran up and he re-signed with the Nets.
Okay.
So he's now on the Nets making pretty much nothing. The Nets are probably gonna sell a little bit at the deadline. I don't really see them competing for a high seed this year. So like maybe that's just like an easy pluck for backup point guard. You send 5 second round picks, which might be an overpay talent wise, but you're paying for a decent player on such a low contract where that's worth it. And all of a sudden that'd be an awesome backup point guard to have.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what I got. The only other names I'd throw were we kind of alluded to this last episode, but I think the Magic have a little bit of a log jam at the guard area. Maybe they'd be willing to part ways with one of their prospects that hasn't panned out as well. So maybe we get someone like Cole Anthony or Suggs who are still on rookie contracts and get them for, a pretty favorable deal.
Yeah. I like Cole Anthony a lot. It's
Is Cole Anthony still on his rookie deal? Actually, let me check.
I would imagine maybe 1 year left, but check
Let's see.
that.
Yep, he's still got a year left on his rookie deal.
But yeah, no, I think with all those second round picks, it's on Brad's mind to leverage them. And out of the guys you mentioned, I mean, all of them I think are good. And Dennis Schroeder definitely drove me a bit crazy when he
Not my
played for
favorite on
us.
that list. Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
I'd like someone who's a little less erratic, but
but at least he's somewhat familiar with the team already.
yeah, and he has playoff experience. Even if he's not going to play in the playoffs, it can be helpful to have somebody like that just in case, like break glass in case of emergency. Someone needs to get onto the court right now. We can put Dennis Schroeder out there instead of Peyton Pritchard, who I'm not sold on right now. I think our coaching staff or maybe the front office is a little more sold than I am, but we'll see.
Yeah. I think TJ McConnell is a really fun name off that list who could be a great fit because obviously an excellent passer. Slight liability on defense, but he plays so hard and will get you some steals. And then kind of like Derek, he could just be like an awesome movement guy. But
Yeah, and the vibes are good with him, and I feel like that matters when you have a spark plug off the bench. It looks like people have fun playing with TJ McConnell, which I like.
yeah, man, he was one of my best streams this year in fantasy. Would just drop like a triple double when Tyrese Halliburton was hurt.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
A game with like 8 steals or something. Oh my
yeah.
god,
You
it
just
was
go like,
cheating.
yeah, go 10, 10, and 10 with a bunch of steals.
And yeah, with the Pacers, I don't imagine he's necessarily part of their long term plans. He's kind of an older player, so
Yeah, but if the Pacers are good next year, who knows? Maybe they keep him.
yeah.
Um, yeah. All right, so that's kind of the Celtics rundown. Um, to close out on them, how do you see them finishing at the end of the year? How do you think they stack up in the conference?
Hmm. I mean, you know, top three, I think is almost guaranteed. Um, yeah, I think we're gonna win 50 plus games, obviously, and good season. It'll come down to the playoffs, but whether the Bucks have a better regular season record than us, or who am I forgetting?
I think the other competitors would probably be Heat if they trade for Lillard, 76ers if they don't implode,
Right.
and that's pretty much it. You could also be like sneak pick Cavs, probably not, but hey.
Yeah. Yeah. All of a sudden, like the Eastern Conference, it seems like they had their brief moment, but like the West kind of seems to be outweighing them on the scale again. We're very top
Yeah,
heavy.
yeah, and I think part of that is because the East is so top heavy right now, to where maybe a team like the Cavs would feel like the Mavs in the West, but because like the top half of the East is so good, like no one can really get in that stratosphere. It's not as open as the West.
Yeah.
Everyone's kind of duking it out for seeds 5 through 10, whereas in the West it's like 2 through 10 is wide open.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, you had sent your Eastern Conference and Western Conference quote unquote power rankings. And like you were saying, the East seems a bit easier to predict for sure. The West is going to be the Wild West with a bunch of those middler teams kind of. It's who knows how the Clippers are going to do. Who knows, the Timberwolves, the Thunder, the Mavericks, the Jazz.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see. But ultimately, I agree. I think the Celtics will be a top team as always. I've got them number one. I think the Bucks are getting a little bit older. Sixers are a mess. Don't really know what the Heat are gonna do. So I expect them to be number one. But if not, they'll definitely be two or three.
Yeah. I'm curious, just real quick, how you think Marcus Smart is going to fit on the Memphis Grizzlies and how
Good call
Grant
out. Good call
Williams
out. Yeah, as
will fit on
Celtics
the
fans,
Dallas
it
Mavericks.
was it was very easy to focus on what the Celtics were losing and gaining, but no, there's always some action happening for those teams as well. I think Memphis overpaid a little bit for Marcus, given he's getting like a little bit older now. Two firsts feels generous. But they'll definitely need him this season, especially with John Morant being suspended for 42 games or 41. I think he's a good fit. The team has always been really good on defense, so having him in the front court, or sorry, in the backcourt to help out with Ja, and then you've got Jaren Jackson Jr. and Steven Adams locking down the paint. It's going to be a scary team to try to score on, and I think he's going to bring good energy to the locker room. Memphis is going to love him. So I think that fit is really good, even if two first round picks felt like a lot. And
Yeah.
they also gave up um
Tyus.
Tyus Jones. Yeah, I almost said Trey. Yeah, they gave Tyus Jones is actually pretty good too. So like Tyus Jones and two firsts felt like a lot, especially when a lot of people were arguing that Tyus, was maybe the best backup point guard in the league. Like every time Ja went down, he would come in and average 18, 7 assists, 5 rebounds a game. He was really good.
And
So
like
he'll start
never
for
a
the Wizards
turnover.
now. Yeah,
He has
yeah,
never.
and I know he was a little unhappy in his backup point guard role, but the reality is like he was the best backup point guard, but he's not going to be a starting point guard on any team other than the Wizards, who are going to be the worst team in the league.
Hot take: Wizards will be only the second or third worst team.
Mm, I don't. I mean, maybe I don't really know who's gonna be worse though. Like you got to give me a name. Like maybe the Hornets could be worse.
Oh yeah, true. I'll say, oh yeah, this is maybe harder. Maybe the Raptors will be worse.
I don't think the Raptors will be that bad though, unless they like really bottom out and trade
Siakam.
Siakam
Yeah.
and then Anunoby, but I don't think they will. I think they'll keep them. And even if they trade Siakam, I think they're still better than the Wizards.
Okay, you got me. I
They
don't
got
think they'll
Jakob
be.
Pertl locking down the paint. I love Pertl. I think Pertl's
True, true,
amazing.
true. My prediction is that Siakam
I
will
think
have like a career-ending injury, and the team will tank afterwards.
fuck you. I think the only teams that are going to be like in contention with the Wizards would be
In
I think the Bla-
contention.
I think the Blazers can get into that. Um, but I still think they'd probably be better just because I like their young guys. And I think the Pistons are going to be really bad this year again. So we'll see.
Oh, yeah, all three of them contenders for sure.
For
Top
sure.
three
For sure.
contenders.
Yeah, they picked the wrong year to contend for the top pick, but whatever, go off. Um, and then Grant Williams, the Mavs, I like. I still feel like the Mavs rotation is super bland outside of Luca and Kyrie. It's like
Yeah,
that duo is fun, and then it's like what starting power forward is gonna be. So it's gonna be the power forward Grant. Center is gonna be.
they still have
I,
Kleba,
I think
Powell.
Rashawn Holmes now, don't they? So maybe it's gonna be
Yeah,
Powell. Maybe it will be Rashawn Holmes, but these are all backups. These are all backups. I don't even know. I think yeah, Cleveland will probably start at small forward. Yeah, it just or maybe it'll be Hardy, but regardless, if it feels like their entire roster is constructed of backups and they don't really have a clear identity around Kyrie and Luca, and it doesn't feel like there's gonna be any help from their role players. So
yeah.
I don't really see a high ceiling for this team, even with such a good duo. I like Grant though. I think he's a good fit.
And I'm hearing a lot that they have had one of the better off seasons, and I'm
I
not
don't really
seeing
know
it.
what people are talking about. I think re-signing Kyrie was definitely a win because hate him or love him, he's amazing at basketball, and you want him on your team if he's gonna play. So re-signing him was a big win, and they did add some good pieces. Like I like the Grant signing for them, but it just feels like they need more. It just feels like there's not a whole lot happening on this team.
Dante Exum, Seth Curry, Matisse Thybulle.
Apparently, Dante Exum shot like 45% from three in Europe, so
I heard that as well.
gonna shoot the lights out.
He was also a obscure name that is somehow getting brought up again because we talked about him in the free agency episode we did, and I mentioned that I had heard that somebody was really hot on him, and that person is Josh Lloyd, the
Mm.
the the guy from
Yeah,
Locked
the
On.
fantasy basketball guy. Yep.
Yeah, and he is notably Australian and like a huge supporter of the Boomers, the national team. So
Yeah, go figure.
a bit of a biased source, but hey, he's hot on Exum.
All right. Well, we'll see then. We'll see. What are your thoughts on Grant going to the Mavs?
Yeah, I think that was their best free agent signing. I think he's versatile. He brings
Good
defense.
value too. I think it was only about 13 million a season, which is very cheap for today's NBA.
Yeah, for
Especially when after Game 7 against the Bucks, I remember the announcers being like, "This guy's so good. Is this guy like a $25 million a year kind of player? Is he that kind of role player?" And then like Maz comes in, he's just out of the rotation.
yeah, and I think what there was a story at the beginning of the year where he wanted 20 or something.
Yeah, and I think it's probably worth that. I think Maz did screw him over a little bit. I think he deserved more minutes than he got with us, and I think it'll prove to be a value contract for the Mavericks.
For sure. And I mean, again, like I think it's hard to conceptualize how much the cap increase is gonna skew how we perceive these contracts. But I think 13 million in 5 years is gonna be, it's gonna feel like a 7 or 8 million contract right now. So
Yeah, exactly, exactly. It's a very fair deal for someone who's going to be the starting power forward on your team. Solid defender, versatile guy. Historically, he's like shot the three surprisingly well, and I
extremely
think
well.
I think he just is pretty good at shooting.
He is. He absolutely is. He's gonna shoot high 30s, if not high 30s. He's not gonna shoot 40, I don't think,
Yeah,
but I think he has. I think he shot like 38% this year and 40 the year before.
yeah, it's a good fit. I like it for them.
Love you, Grant, if you're listening. Um, you know, he he brought Catan to the Celtics world, I feel.
That's true. That was huge. Maybe
Yeah,
his greatest contribution.
just a savant. I think he plays multiple instruments, represented the player what's that called? He's like always one of the guys to go to the White House and he negotiated the CBA, so
Oh yeah, and he also got invited to the whiteout party at whoever's mansion.
oh
And
my
everyone on Twitter was like, "What is this guy doing here?
hey,
How did he get invited?"
he's a socialite. He
His people love Grant.
yeah. Oh my god, that party. I mean, it has no business being talked about, but it is crazy to think that like every celebrity on planet Earth and Grant Williams were just. It's what the CEO of Fanatics or something. It's like some
I,
sports betting website.
I don't know. I thought it was I forget the guy's name. I don't really care, but I thought he was like an artist or something, like a
No, I think he's
singer
like
or
the
a
CEO
DJ.
of a sports betting website or
Oh my God.
Fanatics, whatever that is.
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, well, yeah, we're not
We're
gonna burn your ears with this.
I do want to know now. We're getting a little off the rails, but let's see. Uh, Grant Williams.
Yeah, he's
Michael Rubin,
yeah.
CEO of Fanatics. Oh yeah, I guess yeah.
What even is Fanatics?
Sports merchandise.
Oh
All
my
right, this
god.
is done. Whatever. Unless you want to sponsor us or invite us to your party, then we're down to do business. But otherwise, no free ads.
Yeah, me and
All right.
Harry, we have some white outfits that we could pull off. Just saying,
Yeah, we'd be a great fit for
we
sure.
can do all white. If Grant is there, why can't we be there? We're just as cool.
I agree.
Anyway,
Absolutely. And probably better at Catan.
I think it feels like this episode is is coming to its natural end. You're welcome, everyone, for
Yeah,
this freebie
yeah,
of an
great.
episode.
Yeah, great bonus episode. Maybe got a little off the rails, but that's what it's supposed to be. A little more of an informal episode for y'all tonight. So thanks again for helping us hit 10 subscribers.
And
Um,
subscribers.
yeah, and make sure to tune in again next week for another great episode.
Yeah. Thank you guys again. Smash that subscribe. Also, real quick on the Apple Podcast app, if you could rate it 5 stars. I swear to God, if anyone rates it lower than 5 stars, we will find you. Give us like a nice little review. Follow the show. And that's all I can ask. I'm sounding a bit greedy, but we appreciate you guys. Leave a
Yeah,
review.
you fans are the reason behind this show's success. We give it all up to you guys. So thanks again. Make sure to rate us on Apple, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and thanks again.